Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dusklight Communion, a new Grand Archive podcast with a name we definitely didn't steal from Main Deck Dan.
We got the rights first. It's fine.
Yeah.
And by that I mean we took the YouTube page.
Thank you, Dan. I love you.
Thanks, Dan.
So this is our first episode. I don't know how frequently we're gonna do this. 2 weeks probably to start.
2 weeks would probably be easiest
Yeah.
and consistent. Consistency is the real key.
Yeah,
as long as we're.
That means we'll get to talk about Seattle right after it happens.
Oh boy.
Unfortunately, neither of us are going to Seattle, but we have.
God no, that's so far.
We have friends who are, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens and hear from them.
Absolutely.
So, we are recording this on Wednesday, March 5th. I don't know when this is going to get published. Probably this weekend.
Likely.
Yesterday, Silidar blessed us with the full reveal for Abyssal Heaven on the Grand Archive Index, which they also updated the UI for. Great UI. Love the changes.
More modes.
Yeah. Today, we're going to kind of go through some of the fully revealed cards, some ones that had been revealed prior, some new ones. Go through a couple new archetypes that we think are promising or interesting. Just kind of give our thoughts on the new cards.
Yeah, that's
let me click.
pretty
Work. Okay. Well, I'll start with introductions because I guess this is our first episode. It's probably a good idea. You don't know who we are. I don't know who I am. I don't know who this guy is. I found him on the street. Something like that.
Yeah, the street, like, what, 12 years ago?
So, I'm Jacob. You can find me on most social media platforms under the handle ShadowFTW. My Omnidex is my legal name because I didn't know I was putting in the Omnidex ID, so...
Which is really funny, by the way. I will not stop giving you shit for that.
That's completely fair. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just signing up. Oh, name? Yeah, here, I'll just put my legal name. So, you can find me on Omnidex at Jacob Caldwell.
The full government.
Full government name. So, we just wanted to give a little introduction on each of us. These are my past, present, and future champions here. The ghost of Christmas. We both started in MRC. I started with Sylvie, Slimes. I was like, Slimes are cute. Slimes are fun. It turns out they're really good. Got me a top at a regional. So, thank you, Sylvie. Thank you, Storm Slime. I'm forever sad that Baby Gray is banned, and I'm waiting to see what this new one is, but we'll get to that a little later.
I'm not.
Yeah, it's fair. You deserve the ban, but it makes me sad.
Absolutely.
Luxem Xander's what I've been playing past few weeks while we wait for the next season. It's fun. I like drawing cards. I like healing from 24 to 0 in the same turn. Uncover the plot and Luxem site because silly. And I'm very excited for Diao-chan. We'll talk about my preferred archetype for Diao-chan later. But I think she's a very cool design space. I like cleric stuff.
Prison. And now it's my turn. You'll notice mine are far less serious. There's a good reason why. Oh, that's not the updated Tony. It doesn't matter. I started at the same time Jacob did. He had the Stars collection of slimes. I picked Diana, and let me tell you, it's amazing I'm still playing this game after I got green slimed my gun several times.
ALC starter decks. Yikes.
Sure did. Ow. But I bought the Diana one, bought the Rye one, liked them both, but then saw this weird-looking twink on the left and went, yeah, that's probably my guy. You'll notice a common theme throughout these three. I refuse to play female champions. They scare me, and I'm not allowed to.
Noah's
so we started with Vanitas.
For the Dungeon Guide reprint.
Is that a dude?
Yeah, the Dungeon Guide reprint's a dude. We've been over this.
I used the original one.
Oh, fake men fan.
It's just the champion.
Fair,
the other ones.
Okay.
Started with Vanitas, which I built that deck because I was like, oh, Razor Gale's probably fine, and then the next ascent was immediately 80% Vanitas, and my man got nerfed, which. On one hand, fair, they printed that card incorrectly.
The Toronto incident.
For
anyone not aware, 3 visits and Razor Gale were originally not good together in terms of the enjoyment for your opponent.
Yeah, originally, 3 visits was worded, and it still is printed on the card. Hey, rest your champion if you do. It wasn't an additional cost, which meant you could just play the card 3 times, and it wouldn't do anything 2 of those times. But you cast it and it would 3 your opponent, so you were okay with it.
Fun times. Fun times.
Still love that deck. I'm glad that he got a level 3. that just allows you to beat them in the head. I don't need weapons to kill you.
Fair.
Tenoris, a man that does need weapons to kill you. This is level 1. What it actually is the fact that he's a guardian. This is domain Tony. Is it good? No. Is it funny? Yeah.
Well, we got something later.
It's getting
Specific
better,
domain.
It's getting better, and we're getting to that. But this one, the current build as is, it's pretty alright. Who I hope to be playing in the future? Alan. Why? I like birds.
Bird up.
And I think melodies might have a weird shot at being real.
We'll go over birds.
Real,
right.
but like funny enough to be good.
Birds.
And that should give you a general idea of the kind of decks I play.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get to the HVN stuff, but first we got some housekeeping. Bannings.
Yeah.
Recently, Icebound Slam and Baby Gray got the hit. Good. They're bad. Yeah, if you've ever played against them, you understand. You know. Too much value.
What do you mean I'm at half my life total and it's turn 2?
Yeah, my poor
Or
locals
1.
was ravaged by my Sylvia Mill variants. I'm sorry to my local players, but also not sorry. It was really fun. And just yesterday, Sildar told us that Scepter of Lumina would be getting a change. On the right here, that's the one we're all used to. Good old, possibly +2 with all the floating memory packages.
Also like 8 damage sometimes.
Yeah, no, this card's dumb. Kind of regarded as like one of the best cards in the meta for like the past month or two because everyone's playing water, even after the Icebound Slam ban.
Wonder why.
Yeah, looking at Melbourne, the 7 of the top 8 were water. Fun. But we are getting a change to Scepter of Lumina. It's pretty big.
Well, why, Jacob? Any particular reason?
Yeah, they made 3 large changes that I think just kind of makes this unplayable now, which is honestly fine. It's a proxy vault card. These can be changed because they're not actually real cards. You can print them out.
You lost no money.
Yeah, unless you bought it off TCG.
That's not true, actually.
My friend bought like 4 copies. I don't really know
why. You need one of them.
I know.
Why do you buy a playset?
You know who you are. I love you. But just move the sleeves around, man, please. So yeah, no longer can you activate it from your material deck if you're both water. It's no longer just a little freebie off a floating memory that you play. You can't Chilling Touch into Scepter of Lumina anymore. You gotta wait your time and do your materializations like Sildar intended. And now they pay 5 to draw. You need to be level 3 or higher, and it only draws you 1 card. So like comparing this to backup charger, it's just like a strictly weirder backup charger that deals damage to your opponent when you level up. Yeah.
All right, so I don't want to say play devil's advocate because that phrase always leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Is it worse? Yeah, undoubtedly. Like 100%. It's not drawing you 2 cards. You have to be level 3 even if you want to do that, and you can't play it for free. Sure. Was it kind of broken how it was originally designed?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Scepter,
it was designed for a time where water couldn't kill the opponent.
And now water can kind of too easily kill the opponent. Frostworm Paladin, allies, big turtles. We got big turtles on the horizon.
I don't think this card is unplayable. I think it's definitely it's not an auto include, which is what I prefer. I don't like it when a card you look at it and you're objectively like, well, I have to play that or my deck is worse.
Cough, cough.
Now there's a cough.
We can talk about that another day.
That is a different episode. I could do an episode, Jacob, on Fracture Eyes.
Oh, we'll get to some of the problem cards. Maybe that's our third episode.
And 2, we have just a rant episode where we both get like 3 cards each that we just have to go off on for like 10 minutes.
God. But yeah, Scepter, now you have to actually build into it, but I think most of the water decks at this point can kill their opponent easily enough that you don't need the damage. It's nice. I don't think we're at a point where you need it anymore, especially with Stratagem.
Yeah. Stratagem's fine.
So let's get into HVN. We got 2 new champions. Our Rico deck. Those champions, Gorgia and Diao, both bringing some interesting things to the table. We'll talk about them more in a little bit, but let's start with some interesting champions that aren't the Rico champions. We got new spirits.
We did.
They're
You give your opinion first.
My opinion has actually changed in the last 24 hours since we spoke. I was
Really?
originally of the opinion that these were garbage, straight to the trash.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been convinced by some of my friends that maybe it's a sideboard option or you have a second spirit option, similar to how you might play normal and fragmented, for specific matchups where you know you're going to go first. Like if you lose round 1, you're like, okay, I can side this in and set up a better hand to try and take game 2.
Yeah, and we talked about that briefly.
Yeah, but it's not like fragmented or serene, where I think you like are planning your deck around it. I think it's more of a, let me do this to try and have a better advantage at bringing this game back. Or match
Serene and
back,
Fragmented, you can run a bunch of the cards that care about you being down cards, like either Fast Cure or Gentle Respite, where you know you're going to get that advantage back in addition to being able to sculpt your hand more.
Yeah.
This is you being able to sculpt your hand without going down cards, the downside being, you sit down and wait.
Yeah, and it will be a little awkward because, like, it's going to be hard to level up when you have, because for any newer players, you don't recollect bringing your cards back to your hand on your first turn. So the 7 cards that you draw into memory just stay there for the turn. You essentially are skipping your first turn to sculpt a very good hand. Mulligan, if you will, for any Magic nerds out there. So it's going to be really hard.
Both played it for 10 years.
Yeah. It's going to be really hard to level up to 1 afterwards if you care about the cards that you have just sculpted a nice hand for. So you're probably just going to go like GCR, pull up a premature backup charger, maybe Safeguard, Nullifying, something like that, right?
Which there is credit to, depending on the matchup you're in. Just already knowing you're going to take that turn to get like a hate piece out or just even more card advantage.
Yeah.
But also, I do like the idea too of, because you get to sculpt a 7, yeah, sure, they go into memory and, you might lose 1, but you've put so many cards that you want in your hand that you're okay losing 1. You're like, I lost, like, maybe I lost the dungeon guide that I kept in there. It's like, yeah, but every other card in my hand that I kept there, or like some of the ones I sculpted,
that's true.
I still get to interact with my opponent. So, yes, I still think it's fine to go to level 1, and there's especially stuff to be said about, Spirit of Fortuitous Fire. Fortuitous. If you're playing, like, Rye, and you're like, sick, put all these cards here. I know I can go to level 1 immediately. Because that's been a problem with Rye before, is you draw your opening, like, 6 or 7, and you look, and you're like, these are all arcane cards.
That's true.
And so, like, them being in memory is weirdly a plus.
Yeah, no, that's fair, actually. There was a guy, I forget who it was. I think it was Bob Sherbill. Sorry, Bob Sherbill, if I'm misusing your name here. Saying a little meme deck where you run 60 arcane cards, Spirit of Fortuitous Fire. Actually, I guess the spirit doesn't even matter at that point. Backup Charger and Walmart Backup Charger, aka Portentous Tengu, as I think is how it's pronounced.
Yes.
And you just take 5 turns to level up, but your entire deck's arcane, so Rye's just always growing. It's not good, but it's really funny.
The moment you hit arcane, your opponent just explodes on the spot.
Yeah. Wouldn't be good, but really funny.
I mean, you're a 5-turn clock at that point, right? Because when you do inevitably hit level 3, you didn't really go down that many cards, so you still have like 6 in hand. You're like, all right, went to level 6. It's like, went to level 3. I'm actually level 9, and I would like you to die now.
That's true. You don't have access to the card draw norm cards, though. I think is the big thing, like Careful Study and Peer into Mana.
This is true, but you're running Arcane Disposition, so who's really winning?
That's fair. Well, next up,
don't say fair to that one.
We got a new Kong Ming. SR Kong Ming, Erudite, I think. Erudite, something like that. That's the wrong button. You didn't see that. On enter, you banish the top card of your deck until the beginning of your next turn. You can play it as long as your current faces north, and you repeat it for each direction. Going to be hellish to keep track of play space wise. Have fun.
So I find a fun way to do so is put your shifting currents in the middle and then put it on each side.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it. It's gonna be a little wonky. I have mixed opinions on this card. As someone who is a Terra Kongming enjoyer, my gut instinct is to say this card sucks. Because Terra Kongming likes to play the long con game with the old level 2 inherit effect that draws you cards when you go north to south.
And this is a one-time benefit.
This is a one-time benefit, and also if you're in Terra, what happens if you hit a terror card with this? You have to dungeon guide immediately just to be able to play the card. If you're on that direction, it's rough. But you can play it in Razor Gale or in a possible maybe a Fire Spellslinger Mage deck.
They have printed
some stuff.
They printed some more stuff that changes the direction of your currents.
Yeah.
So I love the nuts of you play this, you flip 4 cards, you look at them, and like based on the cards you flip, on, all right, I'm north, so I'll play this one, which moves me east. Then I'll play this one, it moves me west. Play this other card in my hand, which moves me south. After I play this one that goes west, and you just like get so much value, and your opponent's like, what are you doing?
No.
Stop playing things.
Realistically, you can get at least 3 of them. Whatever direction you're already on. At the end of turn, you can change direction to get access to one of those fast card. The Fan of 7 Debts, you can banish to change your direction to get access to another one. Another new card from HVN, Kong Ming bonus.
Mm-hmm.
You can change the direction of your shifting currents, and if you change from south to north, deal 3 damage to a champion. So there's a couple ways built in if you're not going to level 3 to change your direction on command. Get access. Oh, that's the wrong button. Get access to some more cards.
Other slight benefit is that like when you were playing Kong Ming going to level 1 previously, going to level 2 was never all that good because you were typically facing like west for Bagua always.
Yeah.
Was it west? And this one now, so if you wanted to go to level 2 to get like health, I guess, you knew you weren't ever benefiting from it immediately because usually that build didn't care about the empower as much. Whereas this one, you're at least getting the benefit. You're like, all right, I need the health. I may as well draw a card to replace it.
Yeah.
Because you're always getting min 1, and sometimes, usually you're getting 2. It's pretty likely you can get 3.
Yeah, it's an interesting design space. We'll see if anything comes out of it. For a fire burn type strategy, spoiler alert, I think Cleric is infinitely better. But hey, you never know. The teams like cooking. We'll see what people bring to Seattle. Because
absolutely,
Seattle, if you don't know, is a week after release. So players have a week to get their cards, about a week and a half to test their cards. It's gonna be interesting.
It's fine, they're professionals.
Professional gamers. So next on the docket, we got the Rico champions. We got Guojia. On enter, if you don't control a Fatestone, you reveal your material deck, take the Fatestone one with the lowest cost, put it into play. So you're going to play one of the Fatestones, and we'll get
Jacob, what's a Fatestone?
We'll get to the Fatestones. I think they're in 2 sides. I don't know. But they're how do we best put it? Boss monsters, I guess.
Yeah. It's a big old guy with a condition to become a big man.
Yeah, we'll talk about them. But just know you get a free thing from your material deck. That's never a bad line of text. Level 2, on enter, you get either a quest counter, 2 quest counters, or draw a card. Quest counters is what you use to flip the regalias that you grab off level 1 into the boss monster. So it either accelerates your game plan or draws you a card. And you can lineage release it, banish it from your memory as long as something's on top of it, to essentially counter something that targets one of your guys. Most of your guys are Fatestone or Fatebound things.
Yeah, you get to negate an effect, which is always good to have built-in protection when you've already invested so much into a unit. It's like making an Overlord and then it getting Dream Fairy back to your hand.
Yeah,
like, sadness.
All of her boss monsters do have Spell Shroud, so that you cannot Zephyr them. However, Dream Fairy, Fishing Accident, Arrow Trap, and Snaring, well, level 2 doesn't stop ensnaring fiends, you just cry at that point. But Fishing Trap, Arrow Trap, and Dream Fairy can all say no, get out of here.
You'll notice that Assassin is really good at dealing with this kind of thing.
Tristan stock's on the rise, but you can use this level 2 lineage release to at least make them have 2 answers.
So, how to make them have it.
Yeah. Then level 3, Shenju is what the boss monster type is. So as long as you have your boss monster already, it's free.
Yeah, you just get to go to level 3. You do have to materialize it. You do have to spend your materialization. Yeah. But you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, and then on enter, you can either get 3 quest counters or recover 3. So if you're not already at your boss monster, you could dungeon guide to 3, hard level to 3, get those last quest counters you need. But I think most of the time, you're probably trying to flip it while you're at 2, and then going to 3 for free.
Having the option's always nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Options are nice. Luxem. More Luxem. Interesting thing about Luxem with Gojira is they specifically said that Luxem is not a win condition for Tamer. It is a support thing. And we do very much see that in the cards they printed. We didn't really get that many Luxem cards. I think we got like 7 in total.
She got like 5, and they made 4-ish in the set.
Yeah. And most of them are very much support pieces. There's one that can win you the game. But they're basically support pieces. And that's interesting because we haven't really seen an advanced element that's meant to act as support. Pretty much all of them geared towards winning the game. Looking at you, Crux. Crux is fine.
I got to play with those cards for the first time last week.
And
let me just say, what the hell were they thinking?
Ghost of Pendragon. Hell of a card. Love drawing.
Why is it a 3/4?
Crux is fine. It's okay. So let's go, Gia. She's interesting. We'll touch more on the boss monsters here in a few minutes. Really show what she does because she's kind of like the sideline, right? The main star of the show is going to be your boss monster. That's really what your strategy is going to.
Yeah, but you have to play her to get to those.
Oh yeah, of course. We got Diao, cleric. Beautiful cleric cards. We love cleric cards.
Very.
On enter, you get 2 glimmer counters. What the hell is a glimmer counter? You get inherited
Doesn't
effect.
matter.
Yeah, just a thing. You can rest her and activate a reaction spell from your memory, but instead of paying its normal cost, you use glimmer counters and remove them from her to pay for the cost. Activate this only during your opponent's turn, and we did get rules clarification that cost reductions do apply. So if a card says it costs 4, but under some condition it costs 2 less, you only need 2 glimmer counters.
Yep.
Already at level 1, very interesting. The only thing we've had activate from memory is Stifling Trap.
Some of the other traps.
Some of the other traps, sure. Yes. Assassin Crow. Dang Assassins
cards. Known for their tricky business. Now clerics joining the fray.
Yeah, but like there's a lot of good reactions in all the elements. In water, most of your negates are reactions. Yeah. I think all of them are. I'd be surprised if one of them wasn't.
All of them are.
Obviously, probably don't want to cast Cerulean Decree from your memory.
You know what? Sometimes you need to just make them pay too.
That's
or you really need that attacker to be smaller.
I actually don't know how Imbue works with that because they did say you need to follow all casting conditions.
Imbue is an optional.
Optional, okay. I don't know. I've never had to encounter a situation where I play an imbued thing from memory.
I believe. Let me double check. Just any card with imbue. How dare you make me look this up right now? God, I was like.
Fire's got some good ones. We'll get to those. Because there's not many that they had printed prior, but they've printed some new reactions to play in HVN. They're pretty interesting.
I now have the ruling.
Oh, you have the ruling? Okay, what's the ruling?
Imbue, for Windmill Engineer, Imbue 2, you may reserve all cards revealed as you activate this card. So when you play it, you show all the cards you were using to cast it upright. By the way, fun fact with Imbue, you can imbue a card incorrectly.
Yeah, you can just be like, hey, I want to show you.
2 norm cards, and the card's not imbued, but you did try to imbue it.
Here's 2 Shadow Strikes for my Windmill Engineer. What? Okay.
Yeah. You may reserve all cards revealed as you activate this card. If at least 2 of them are wind element, this card becomes imbued. Sure. So you can be like, I'll reveal these face up. Why? I don't know. I feel like styling on you.
Okay, so you can't use imbue with Diao. Good to know. For I think the one interaction with Cerulean Decree. Wind has a notorious reaction, a Veiling Breeze. So yeah, there's a lot of good options. And level 2 really helps us keep doing it. Beginning of your end's phase, if the amount of glimmer counters on her is less than the number of Fantasias you control, give her an amount equal to the difference. If you got 4 Fantasias, you're always going to end the turn at least 4 glimmer counters. So just more fuel for playing cards.
And by the way, if you think, oh, well, there's not too many good Fantasias, boy, do we have good news for you. There's roughly a jillion of them now. Unless you want to be wind, in which case it's a bit different.
Wind Fantasia. I don't think I included the Wind Fantasia stuff on here, but the Wind Fantasia stuff for the set is Fantasia Allies. it's an interesting design space, that's for sure. I don't know if there's enough there, but I'm very excited to see someone try.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, my sources are telling me. Fun fact: you couldn't do the imbue thing with Cerulean Decree anyway. It's
Oh.
not a reaction.
It's not a reaction?
No, it is a cleric spell. All of the decrees are cleric spells.
That's kind of wild.
I mean, like, I think as far as I can tell, it's the only one that isn't.
Interesting.
The only imbue card that is a reaction is one of the newer ones. Oh, sorry, that's not true. There's Squallbind Pounce, which is a ranger unit becomes distant if it's imbued, suppress an attacking ally. And then there's Slipaway, an Umbra card.
Okay, sure. So,
So,
don't gotta worry about that.
You're not gonna have to worry about the imbue thing coming up, guys.
Yeah. Now, if you're looking at level 1 and level 2, you're like, okay, I see the vision, Fantasias, Glimmer counters. Wrong. Level 3 does nothing with those at all.
Ooh.
On enter,
New mechanic.
choose any amount of non-champion objects and give them a wither counter on each of them. Wither counter is 5 lines of reminder text. It says at the beginning of the main phase, you either pay 1, reserve 1 for each wither counter on per instance of object you control, or sacrifice the object with the wither counter. So if you have an object with 4 wither counters, you either got to pay 4 or you're sacrificing the object.
Likewise, if you have 4 different objects with 1 wither counter and only 3 cards, one of those is going.
Yeah, and it happens at the beginning of the main phase, so after you've recollected. It's a true and tried tax.
Yes,
a tariff,
you can't
if
get
you
around
will.
it by paying it before. You can reserve cards, by the way. If you do have like a fractal
Yeah, you can use,
that has
use
reservable,
fractals.
you can use that to pay for it.
So it's an interesting hate piece. She's got a lot of this in her deck, the Rico deck. It's interesting. We'll see how it plays out. And whenever a non-token object an opponent controls is destroyed, you can banish it, and they get a Flower Bud token, which is a textless Fantasia token that you can use specific Terra cards.
It is pretty.
It is pretty. You can use specific Terra cards to bloom the tokens into your token of choice that either like does damage to your opponent, makes them heal you, makes them lose levels, makes them banish cards from their graveyard, makes them banish cards from the top of their deck, and put wither counters on more objects they control. Very
Can I say, by the way,
interesting.
the one that messes with level, I believe it's
Acerbiia?
I don't know.
Starts with an A.
You know what? I'm not going to pretend to know how to pronounce
That's
it.
fair. We're not
All I
gardeners.
know is the flavor text. It's just it's champions you control get -1 level. You give it to your opponent so their champion shrinks. 2 things about this. The flavor text is begin again,
That's
which
really
is pretty
funny.
raw.
That's pretty good.
But also, we found out that normally the keyword efficiency says for each point of level you have, this card is 1 cheaper to play. If your level is negative, because you are a level 2 champion and you have 4 of the flower, and your level is -2, it works against efficiency.
Yeah.
So that Arcane Blast you really wanted to play, I'm sorry to tell you, you're going to have to pay a bit more.
That is really funny.
Wonderful.
So that's the outro. Let's go into the boss monsters of the week. So all of these Fatestones that Gorgia level 1 can pull are Immortal and Spellshot on the front. They have a very high cost, so if you're really only getting them out with Gorgia 1, let's be honest. They have lots of lines of text with Gorgia bonus. And
Really hit home that you gotta be Gojia.
Yeah. You can arrest it and remove the number of needed quest counters from your champion. And if you do, you transform it to the backside, because we got DFC cards now. So Fabled Ruby Fatestone.
Dual-faced cards.
Yeah, dual face cards. Fabled Ruby Fatestone. Beginning of your turn, deal 1 damage to each champion, and then whenever non-combat damage is dealt to 1 or more units by a fire element source you control, give your champion a quest counter. It's a Fireburn Tamer.
It was already kind of a thing, but now it's even more real.
Yeah, and once you get 7 of those quest counters, turns into Suzaku, a Vermilion Phoenix. Like I said, they all got spell shard on the back, protect them from Zephyr shenanigans.
Look at that type line.
Look at that, yeah. Whew. All of those are relevant besides the word Phoenix.
Yeah, ironically.
And on death, it's a banish. On banish, it is a Phoenix. Words. You may banish 3 fire element cards from your graveyard. If you do, you bring back Suzaku transformed. which is to the backside, because when dual face cards go anywhere else that isn't the field, they revert back to the front side natively.
And please note, it says on banish. It says this because it is still a Regalia. And because of that, Regalias cannot go to the graveyard. Yeah. Anytime they would go to the graveyard, they are banished instead, which would trigger Suzaku. So it tries to die. It says, hey, wait a minute, I want to live. And then comes back as the backside, where it slowly starts pinging, and like a phoenix, the cycle begins anew.
It's like that phoenix from Harry Potter.
Or the phoenix from any phoenix story, Jacob.
I don't know what you're talking about. Suzaku's cool. There's some rumorings of like a combo deck, because there's a few cards that let you sacrifice fate-bound allies or items, which you will notice Suzaku is. And when you kill your own Suzaku, you can just bring it back, and it comes back awake, so you can just keep attacking with it. Not sure how real that deck is, but I think it's really funny.
Hard to speculate, but it's really funny.
It is really funny. I love really funny decks. I love Domain Tony. It's not good, but man, is
brother,
it funny.
I love Domain Tony.
Next up, we got Fabled Sapphire Fatestone. Probably the most hyped one.
All right.
It's if you know Fractal Rain. It's Fractal Rain. At the beginning of your recollection phase, each player mills a card.
It'll be as each, so you do benefit your opponent.
Yes, each. However, you are going to be benefiting from this a lot more, because you probably just play Water Mill, like Sylvie or Sylvie Nico from this past season. But instead of Sylvie, congratulations, it's Guogia. And then whenever
just kind of cleanly replaces the Tamer.
It does just kind of cleanly replace Sylvie. And whenever you mill a card, one or more cards, so it's instances of milling, you get a quest counter. When you get 9 quest counters, you can flip it. Turns into Tortle Genbu. God, that art is sick. It doesn't really make sense that he's got a giant snake as his tail that wraps around back to the front.
It's lore. Come on, lore. You don't know the lore?
Yeah. Do you think he's got like a scratch like behind his ear? He uses the snake to sort of like get at it.
Dude, do you think this snake like ever messes with him? Like does like the weird flicky thing right behind his head? He's like, stop.
Probably.
I don't have arms.
In addition to this card being like weird art wise, it's also just like really good.
Oh yeah.
3/9 taunt, wild stat line, really hard to kill.
3/9, sure.
Yeah, you can pay 3 and give it plus X life. That's been errated. It's supposed to be a heart, not life. Until end of turn, where X is the amount of water element cards in your graveyard. So, like that water mill shell.
Jacob, how many water cards could I be running?
Probably 60. Your whole deck's probably water. Still.
Interesting.
So this could easily be like plus 10, plus 20 health. And there's a funny little card in this set that switches the attack and life stat of an ally. So that could be a very real kill condition. Just, I give this plus 20 defense, switch the power and toughness, attack and life, hit you for 29.
You know, it's really strange. They also made that card specifically a skill. That way you could get around your own spell shroud.
It is a skill. Thank you, Silidar. Very cool. We'll see if it's too much. Water Tamer Mill had a bit too much of a good run the past 2 months? Probably 2 months.
If you're wondering why Scepter of Lumina had to go change, this is part of why.
Yeah, and Icebound Slam.
Yeah, too.
Maybe more. Lost in Thoughts is category 1 on the ban list now.
Is it actually?
Yeah, Lost in Thoughts went up to Cat 1. Card's good.
I'm not dissing it. I think it's more of just the fact that you can throw it in your bin for free.
Yeah, Lost in Thoughts. A lot of problems, but yeah. Next up, Fabled Emerald Fatestone. This has a egregious misprint on it.
Yes,
it mentions that it puts the quest counters on the object. Note, they go on your champion, not the object.
This is true.
Whenever you suppress an object, you get a quest counter, and it has a very high price to pay to be able to suppress something, but of course you could do it during recollection or at the end of their turn. But you can only activate the ability once. You have to suppress the Fatestone to be able to use that effect again.
Which isn't impossible.
And we did get a ruling confirmation. If you suppress the Fatestone, it sees itself get suppressed. So you'll get a quest counter. You need 8 to flip this bad boy. We get a tiger. Big body. 6'6".
Big man
Yeah.
on campus.
Yeah.
There's not too terribly much to be said about this one because
It's pretty
before
straightforward.
this set, it's big. It makes your beast lose pride. And before this, we were a little speculative of like how easy is it going to be to flip him because there's not too terribly many good suppress cards, but
Yeah.
we did get enough to make it worth. And the fact that there are cards in the set that just say put a quest counter on your champion.
Yeah.
We don't really care which one you're using right now.
Getting enough quest counters on any of these doesn't look like it'll be too bad from what we originally
Yeah.
thought. But yeah, Byaku, White Tiger, 6/6. Vigor, Beast allies you control lose pride. The first animal or beast card costs 2 less each turn. Yeah, just kind of enables big dumb win stuff.
Which you'll love to see.
Not much else to say. It's pretty. Yeah, I mean the deck kind of builds itself. I mean there's some nuances to some picks here and there, but suppress things, play big dumb things, win. Right? I mean it's
Suppress things. Step 3 profit.
look. Everything in life is a 50-50. You either win or you don't. Okay. Go buy those boxes.
Just math.
CSRs.
No, hold on. Wait, no.
CURs are a
wait,
50-50. You either
wait,
get
hold
it or
on,
you
wait.
don't.
Wait.
This is not
Legal
legal
doesn't-
advice.
Yeah, don't listen to his dumbass.
And our last Fatestone, the one from the Recollection deck, is Arcane. Kind of wild.
This is the one that comes in the deck.
Yeah, so it's not fancy full art. However, if you get a CSR, which remember, 50-50 chance, it will be full art.
But Jacob, this is an arcane card. That's not a basic element.
Yeah, so fun fact. You can play any of the Fatestones, and level 1 will still grab them. It does. You're not actually playing it. She just puts it into play. So with Genbu, the water Fatestone, you could technically play a wind deck that just happens to play the water Fatestone. It's not going to be the greatest, but you can do it.
It is an option you have.
So for Arcane, obviously, there's no basic Arcane Spirit, so we don't have to worry about that. You just play the Arcane stuff with any of the elements. Probably looks like Fire or Wind is going to be the option for Fabled Azurite Fatestone here. But that remains to be seen. This one's pretty interesting. Beginning of your end phase, you can banish a card at random from your memory. If you do, draw a card, and then whenever you banish a card from your memory, give yourself a quest counter. And this does work with, like, if you dungeon guide, for example, banishing 2 cards from your memory, you will get 2 quest counters from that. Which is good because you need 10 whole quest counters to flip this.
It's the most expensive one.
Yeah, and we get Dragon Seryu Azure Dragon Arcane 4/12, even bigger butt than the turtle. Spell Shroud Taunt, and it's got a wild on attack trigger. Choose one of the following on attack. Generate an Arcane Blast card and banish it. As long as it's banished, you can play it, ignoring its elemental requirements. You still don't have to be arcane. Or you can empower X+2, where X is the number of arcane cards in your banishment.
So
it's a card.
It's big. I think the thing people like, do you have to attack with it to get its effect, which does ignore the taunt? Yes. However, if you don't attack with it, what are they gonna do?
It's very hard to kill. It is just a 4/12.
Yeah, you don't attack with it. Your opponent sits there and goes, "Well, I have a bunch of 2/3s," and you're like, "Damn, that's crazy."
That's wild. Frostform Paladin? Nah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, attack me, coward.
Yeah. The 4 attack is very prevalent because 4 is kind of the premium number to kill allies right now. We got a lot of good allies with 4 health. Looking at you, Ghost of Pendragon, and Frostform Paladin. So it's very nice that you can just kind of clean those up if they try and attack. Of course, they probably won't be attacking. They'll probably find some way to get around the dragon. But that's going to be hard without Dream Fairy.
Yeah. Dream Fairy is still a big concern, which is why Gojira does have the level 2, remember, that does say, hey, I would like to not actually lose my monster that I spent the entire game making.
Negate a trigger or activation that targets one of your fate-bound goons. I'm a Dream Fairy hater, so I love to see it. But yeah, I don't know. Dragon's interesting. Okay, next.
It's the easiest one to slot anywhere.
It is the easiest one to slot anywhere. Speaking of easy things to slot anywhere, Regalia. We got our Divine Relic. Art of War.
Yeah, so you know how, like, one of the things that sets off Grand Archive versus other games like Magic is that you can attack with units immediately and directly in towards other units. I can play my 2/2 to attack your 2/2 because I know, hey, we can trade these off. I know like the flow of combat. I know the pace of the game, and I can hide things from you as your opponent because you don't know the contents of my hand. Art of War says that's no longer a thing.
Yeah.
Because a unit has to be in play for a full turn before it can attack. Well, not a full turn. But yes, it can't attack the moment it hits play.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Wild. Summoning Sickness is back. Well, I mean,
Yep.
it was never here, but
but it is
pulled
back.
We pulled it from the depths of Magic the Gathering design hell, and it's here with us now. You can also use it to help pay for a memory cost. It's like floating memory from play, I guess, if you can call it that.
It's not a no. Is it a no? Memory cost is no. That's reserve cost.
No, memory cost is
pay for reserve cost.
No, it pays for memory cost.
It just goes up.
Yeah.
Actually, I do. Weirdly, though, I think it's better if it's reserve cost because I love the idea of you sitting in play with Art of War the entire game and then being like, actually, I want to make this card cheaper to give my stuff haste back.
Yeah. I mean,
so I think it is better
than
that. I mean, yeah, but you have to kind of like go all in.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful card.
Yeah, it's good. Good card. Card's good. No more comments. I mean, yeah, it's good with the Fatestones, right? Because all your Fatestone stuff, that's like the dual-sided cards that come in as items, you're probably not flipping them in the same turn. And none of the dual-face cards, when they flip, they don't become new objects. They're still the same object.
They're the same object, which is relevant for how some of them are designed.
Yeah, so it's been there. So it can now attack the turn you flip it because it's been in play. So that's interesting, at the very least.
This also gives a lot of staying power towards decks that legitimately do need time to set up, or more spell-heavy and like action-heavy decks that when they get overrun really quick. This is a very big road bump for ally decks.
Oh, God. FISA looks at this with their Arthur, and they're like, damn. God.
And even worse, actually, is I think if you are an ally deck, there's good reason to play this as well, because if you get your board started first,
that's true.
It's really hard to come back from no longer being able to attack your opponent's important squishy like Banner Knight. Yeah. Because your opponent's like, nah, you can't attack the first turn. Anyway, all of my stuff has been in here for 3 turns.
You just get to play like the most egregious tempo war known to man.
Oh yeah, no, I think it is. This is legitimately going to be an Art of War.
Yeah. I think the ceiling for skill is really high. But the immediate usage is also really good.
Yeah. Playing this one turn so that you can materialize a 1-cost thing for effectively free also isn't even that bad.
Yeah,
you just played the Temporal Spectrometer.
Temporal Spectrometer for one that has more text. We did it, guys. Yeah. Temporal Spectrometer is still the worst Divine Relic.
I had that play against me once, and I legitimately just got baffled.
Yeah. Next up, more pretty cards. Scepter of Awakening. When they were...
You ever wanted to kill your opponent?
Yeah, you ever wanted to kill your opponent in a control deck? Here's the answer. When they were revealing Diao stuff, I was really worried. I was like, man, I don't see a way to, like, win the game. You can stop your opponent from winning the game, but, like, how are you going to win the game? You don't have a Fireball like Merlin does or a Ghost of Pendragon. And then they showed this, and I was like, okay. So we got Scepter of Awakening, a 0-cost Terra Regalia. For Diao, if you have at least 4 Fantasias, which is pretty likely.
Not hard.
Not hard. You can just play it from your material deck. So you can play during your turn. Just like Shadow's Claw for Tristan.
Exactly.
You can pay 2 and rest. Target Fantasia you control becomes an ally in addition to its other types with base power and life equal to its reserve cost, and you get a buff counter. Yeah, that starts killing people pretty quick because a lot of her Fantasias are like 4 or 5 cost, but they reduce for Cleric or Diao bonus to like
so they're actually like 3 or 2.
Yeah, and then Scepter's like actually you're hitting for like 5 or 6.
In fact, by the way, if I animate a 3-cost Fantasia and turn it into a 4/4 for the turn, I attack. It goes to the end of my turn. It stops being an ally, which is good, because it means they can't attack it on the backswing. But it also means I just have a rested Fantasia in the corner, by the way.
Yeah.
But you do that, and then you go to your turn, you say, hey, I want to animate this again. You know that buff counter you put on it the first time? It's still there,
The
and now
buff
there's
counter
another
does
one.
stay.
Now it's a 5/5.
Yeah, buff counters only apply their stats to units, but it still
You just
stays
gotta
there.
get to chill otherwise.
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of damage. I love this card. It's cool. Also, amazing artwork. I love it. Very
Very
colorful and vibrant. I really we're praying for this in Art of War from the case on Friday. Because man, beautiful art, good cards. Next up, a card I also want to open. I mean, it's a rare. I'll probably get it. Censor of Restful Peace. Cards in graveyards lose all abilities, and yes, that includes floating memory.
What if you wanted to go to heaven, but God said no water decks?
Yeah. Obviously, watermill decks love their floating memory. I think they play like 20 float on average.
You're over a third.
Yeah, you just get to say no. However, doesn't work like Nullifying Lantern. If you fracturize this, it's layers works in your favor, where it loses the effect. So there is answers to this. It's not like you can fracturize protect it, but I mean, it's still just like really strong.
Oh yeah.
They're printing a lot of new norm and niche hate pieces, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean it's. I enjoy when there's counterplay to good decks.
Yeah. Speaking of counterplay, more Dungeon Guide counterplay.
Negate all on-enter triggers from target ally you don't control, unless they pay 3. The funniest thing about this card, I think, is activating it when they play Dungeon Guide when you know they can pay.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same idea with... So this is Frostbitten, a 2e, water 0 cost Regalia, and has the level 2 effect. I think so. Level 2 effect to banish it to do the effect. Yeah, so it's the same idea of Frostbind. Sometimes you're playing Frostbind not as an actual negate, but as a blinding orb. You want them to put more cards down to do their thing, so they have less follow-up. This is really good, like a really good line of play against Slimes, where they go to 3 with the Dungeon Guide or hard level, and they've got like maybe like 3 cards in their hand because they usually went low influence. They play like a Ethereal Slime or a Storm Slime, and you play Frostbind, and yeah, they're gonna pay for it. But now they can't do any follow-up, and you have a window of opportunity to do whatever
you have a chance
you want.
to not die.
So yeah, Frostbitten, a 2e. I think it's the same thing. Obviously, it's very good at just saying no to your Dungeon Guide. You could put it under a Quicksilver Grail to sort of hide the fact that you have this.
I almost like actually playing it when just so your opponent knows. Like they have 5 cards.
That's true.
You put it into play, and you pretty much look at them and go, I'm gonna make you have to play around this. It's an interesting case of when you it's a very interesting mechanic for imbue as well, which is why I really like it. Is sometimes you want to show your opponent a card. One of my favorite things that I used to do when I played Vanitas is I ran 2 copies of Diablerie, and the reason I did was I would play Windmill Engineer showing Diablerie in another card, and either I would do that for one of 2 reasons. One, I knew that they weren't going to make it next turn, or 2, I knew they might. And now they're like, oh, well, he showed it to me. He doesn't have it. And then I would play the second one in my hand.
Yeah, I mean, information's power. Also, like you said, putting this out to make them like think about it. In long tournaments, like a sense, mental damage is strong.
Oh, it demolishes.
There's a reason you'll never catch me playing Gildas in a Ascent tournament. I don't want to think about balance math 8 rounds straight. That sounds like hell.
Yeah, there is something to be said about forcing your opponent to juggle more variables. Because eventually they will mess up. Now, granted, same can go to you. You can forget you have this in play.
This is true. I mean, that's always an option, right?
They go start banishing cards, you're like, wait, actually, hold on.
Mental damage. I love mental damage, so I do like this card. I forget what the next one was. Oh, Walmart backup charger. Are you sad that backup charger is like 90 American dollars? Be sad, semi no longer. Portentous Tongu, 0 cost Norm Regalia. It's got a Goegia bonus on enter to give you a quest counter. And, importantly, you can pay 3, banish it, draw a card into memory. So it's got the backup charger line of text. It's backup charger. Just
Backup
doesn't make a power
charger
cell.
at your cousin's, not
Yeah,
home, but like
yeah,
your cousin's.
yeah. It's like, hey, I want to get McDonald's, Mom, and then she's like, we got McDonald's at home, and it's like, well, kinda, but it's good enough, right?
Yeah, but then she makes you like a really good meal. You're like, I'm not angry, but like I'm confused.
Now you might be
This is how I
scared
got here.
because you see, this is a rare. Backup charger was a rare, but thankfully this comes in the recollection deck. It's a guaranteed thing in the Guoji recollection deck, so get them while
So
you
I hope you
can.
pre-ordered those.
Yeah, I don't mean to fearmonger and FOMO you, but they're gonna sell out quick.
Yeah.
People like the tamer stuff. People like backup charger. I heard at Melbourne that the Guoji, they had about, I think it was like 100, I think it was like 90 of each, roughly. I think it was like 90 to 100 of each. They sold out of the Guojia ones, and they still had about 40 Diao ones left.
No, my girl.
So yeah, people are, they're hungry. Rightfully so. I mean, you can just play both this and backup charger. More draw, more consistency.
Yeah, if you're an incredibly aggressive deck and you're just like, I don't care how I get them, I want cards. Very real.
Yeah.
Not Gojia, not a problem.
Yeah. No, this card's great.
And also, by the way, if you are Gojia, this is just all upside.
That's just upside.
You play it, get that quest counter. You pop this later when you just want the card. Step 3 profit.
Yeah, no, card's good. Yeah, not much else to say. Everyone knows backup charger's good. It's probably one of the best Regalia in the game.
Oh yeah.
Fatestone. So we're gonna get into. I think I listed out 3 deck archetypes I think are interesting and possibly good into the upcoming meta. Things to maybe keep an eye out for at Seattle. I didn't include. I did new ones. Obviously, Watermill's gonna be good. Merlin's gonna be good.
What?
Tristan's gonna be probably good.
Who's that?
Obviously, so we know some of these things are gonna be good. You know to expect them. You know to expect Fiza. You probably know to expect Fire Aggro Tamer. But these are just 3 that I thought were maybe good enough. We'll see. I have high. If I was a gambling man, I would bet all of my chips on one of these. It's not this one because Fatestones, like I have written out here, are going to give you carpal tunnel. The amount of de-sleeving you're gonna have to do to flip.
Do you
these
want
things.
to? Do you want to do these Fatestones and I do the other ones, or do you want to do other way around?
You can cover these ones. I'll cover the win ones.
Yeah. These are the starting Fatestones. Now you might be asking, what's a Fatestone? Well, if you recall, we did actually talk about those already. All those boss monsters are Fatestones, which is to represent it is an item on the front and a ally on the back. So we have the starter one, Fatestone of Revelations. You know how I know that you tamers are incredibly sad that you lost Baby Gray, and no one else around you was sad. Well, this is why you lost it, is because you got a new one. Fatestone Revelations, on enter, you may reveal 2 Fatestone and or Fate-bound cards from your hand or memory. And if you do, draw a card. And then, if you're Gojia, you can pay 6 to transform Fatestone Revelations, but this ability costs level less to activate. It's like it has efficiency for the ability. So this is a great way of drawing like you did with Baby Gray. It's a great way of keeping your influence high while still developing to the board, albeit later in the game. Because it's not a ally yet. It's still just kind of a rock for a while. Can you show me what the backside is, or is it show?
Yeah, I mean it shows all of them, but we can kind of just go back and forth. Spoilers.
Then it flips into Young Wormling. It's 2/2. Nothing flashy, nothing big, but it is bigger than Baby Gray. Although it is admittedly missing the important keyword of intercept, because in my opinion, that was the most egregious part of it.
Yeah.
Back to the next one, Craggy Fatestone. Whenever an opponent materializes a card with memory cost 0, like GCR, Art of War, Backup Charger, Portentous Tangu, put a buff counter on Craggy Fatestone. And as we said earlier, a Fatestone, when it transforms, does not leave the field. It stays the same object, so any buff counters on it will stay when it turns into an ally. Speaking of, you can tap it and transform Craggy Fatestone, but you can only activate this ability if there are 2 or more buff counters on it. And it turns into Obstinate Cragback, which is a 2/2, but when you transform it, it's going to be a 4/4 because of those buff counters, with Spell Shroud. And your opponent can't materialize cards with memory cost 0. This is a really good way of punishing those that are just trying to get extra cards or get hate pieces down really fast.
Really
Especially
funny.
because there is more than one way to just put buff counters on this without them materializing 0-cost cards. There are ways of putting buff counters on fate-bound objects or fate stones.
There's literally one that's like a 2-cost fast, give like like something two buff counters, I think.
But hey, playing this, immediately doing that, and then flipping this into a 4/4 that says you can't materialize 0-cost material, very good.
Yeah, kind of wild.
Yeah. The next one, Fatestone of Balance, Gojira bonus. You'll notice all of these have Gojira bonus. She's the one that's using them. No, sorry, Sylvie, you don't get to double dip into more archetypes.
Yeah, there's one Fatestone that doesn't say Gorgia bonus, but its condition for flipping requires a flipped ally you control to die.
Yeah. Fatestone of Balance, Gojira bonus. Whenever an opponent activates a card, if that opponent has exactly 3 cards in their memory, transform Fatestone of Balance. Do you remember how we just talked about forcing your opponent to do the mental math?
Mental damage.
Mental damage.
Dungeon Guide. Frostsworn. A lot of good 3-cost things.
The biggest thing, too, is they don't want this to flip, because it's a 2-cost 3/3 with Steadfast, which means it's really annoying to kill.
I was like, look at them. They're so cute.
They're adorable.
He's got a battle scar. I love it.
Just like the guy to the next stone. An idle Fatestone.
No, this card's sick. I love this.
Show me the Fatestone. Show me the
idle Fatestone.
Idle Fatestone. On enter, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, and then put them back in any order. Jacob, that effect sounds familiar.
Idle Thoughts.
There it is. You don't get to put them on the bottom. It's not glimpsing, but it's still stacking your deck. And Gojira bonus, tap it, and pay 2. Reveal the top card of your deck. If that card's reserve cost is even, 0, 2, 4, 6, put a buff counter on Idle Fatestone. Otherwise, 1, 3, 5, 7. Transform Idle Fatestone. And it transforms into Bolstered Boar, which is a 0/2, so not big. And as long as Bolstered Boar has 2 or more buff counters on it, it has Steadfast, Taunt, Vigor, and Retort 2. You'll notice that's a lot of words, which means you really do want to stack your deck, so you're revealing even cost cards at least 2 times to get all these words, and then finally flipping it into just kind of a haymaker of a card. Yeah. Because remember, does it tap to transform? Or does it rest to transform?
It will rest to transform.
But it does have Vigor, which means you don't get to attack with it immediately, but it does get to block immediately. Yeah. So these are the basic normal ones that you can slot into any deck, and honestly, all of them are pretty legit.
These are the 4 ones that I picked out that I thought were just like the most solid. There's a few other ones.
Yeah, there's a few more, but these are like some of the ones where like Fatestone of Revelations. If you're running a Fatestone deck, you're running Fatestone of Revelations. Yeah. It's Baby Gray. Yeah. Craggy Fatestone, an interesting way to hate out cards, as is Fatestone of Balance, because, like we said, there is equity to forcing your opponent to play math. Your opponent plays a Frostborn, they better have a fast effect to go with it.
No, yeah, it's interesting. And each basic element gets 3 Fatestones, and there's 1 advanced element one. We're going to talk about the wind ones and the Luxem one. So, Fatestone of Heaven, this comes in the Recollection deck. It's a 3-cost Luxem Fatestone. On enter, destroy a non-champion object with memory cost 1 or less, or reserve cost 5 or less. For all intents and purposes, it's Excalibur on a stick. And you can pay 3, reveal all the cards in your memory. If you reveal at least, if 3 or more Luxem cards are revealed this way, you transform it. You can only activate this ability once per turn, and it's slow speed, so you can't abuse reveal procs. And it turns into a 3/3 with Spell Shroud, Vigor, and on death recover 3. It's just kind of a solid haymaker.
Very solid card. The front sides are already so powerful that the fact that the back side is even remotely playable.
I don't even know if you need to play it for the flip side. Excalibur's a good card.
Having Excalibur that you can Zephyr.
Yeah. It's good. Wildgrove Fatestone. It's a 3-cost. Whenever another wind element object enters the field under your control, put a buff counter on it. Then, if there's 6 or more buff counters, you transform it. And it's a 1/1 with no text, but it's actually a 7/7 with no text, because it has to flip with at least 6 buff counters. 7's big.
Big monkey.
7's really big.
Boss. It's bigger than a boss monster.
It is. It is. That's kind of crazy. That's killing most things in the game. It kills Byakko and doesn't get retaliated to die.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Obviously, the condition to flip is not super easy, but with enough suppression effects, you can get there.
Please note, it also says object, so other Fatestones entering do trigger it.
Fatestones, Regalias, units. It's interesting. It's definitely something you want to see, like, I think, in your opening hand, where you just slap it down turn 1, turn 2, and you're like, yeah, this is gonna sit here, and eventually it's gonna kill you.
Because remember, when it flips, it's not rested, and it can attack immediately.
Yep, it doesn't need to rest itself to transform, so it's interesting. One that does need to rest itself to transform. Cyclonic Fatestone. It's a 3-cost fast activation. On enter, suppress an attacking ally you don't control. So it's a Zephyr at home for conditional. And if you pay 3 and rest it, you transform it into a 5/5 with Pride 5 Windstalker Wolf. Pairs very well. I mean, this is Byakko written all over it. The Wind Fatestone. Gives you a suppression effect on the front to get you a quest counter. Gives you a big thing with Pride on the back that you can use Byakko to remove the Pride. Solid beater. Not much else to say.
You know what I just realized?
Big damage wins. What?
Go back to the Fatestone.
Yeah.
That doesn't say as a spell.
Oh, it's not as a spell. Oh, no. Friendly Fire. It hits the other boss monsters.
It sure does. I'm sorry, I had that epiphany. I was like, huh. Now, granted, it's not as bad. Suppressing it, yes, it does cause it to go back to the stone form, but it doesn't just remove it from the game.
Yeah. Damn,
like,
that's
wild. Bring it to your hand. Yeah.
Our last wind one, Beseeched Fatestone. And yes, Beseech is a reference to Beseech the Winds. On enter, materialize a card from your material deck. And if you pay 6 and rest it, you transform it. But it costs 2 less to activate for each card you've materialized this turn. So on a normal turn, if you played this before the current turn, it's going to cost 4 to transform. But if you Zephyr it or do any random shenanigans like that, you can make it cost 4 less, 6 less, maybe. So it's probably not too bad to flip. And it turns into a 3/4 with Vigor. So it goes toe-to-toe with Frostborn Paladins. Which is never bad. Solid. I mean, Beseech the Winds we know is a good card.
I think the biggest credit to this card is that it's a Beseech that you can Zephyr.
Yeah, you can.
Like, that's going to be my argument for a lot of these wind ones, but that's because that's the bit of, like, Byakko, is you want to be Zephyring all of your stuff. So the fact that you can effectively buy more materializations than your opponent, even if you're just getting something like Portentous Tengu, that's still really good.
Notably, you can just slap this turn 1 and go grab Art of War, right? Like,
yeah,
I think
really makes your opponent sad.
I do genuinely think if you were what this shell is for this Fatestones that cause Carpal Tunnel is I think you're playing a shell that goes fully to Luxem for Gorgia, that's kind of focusing on these Fatestone synergies. And you just play Art of War as your Divine Relic because none of your allies attack the turn they entered. You're playing all of these like a turn or 2 before they're gonna flip at least. So you can just use Art of War to win the tempo war against ally decks. I mean, slapping down a Beseeched Fatestone on turn 1 and saying here's an Art of War against Water Assassin, Water Mill, or Fire Xander. It's backbreaking to their game plan immediately.
Yeah.
I love it. I was mid on this card at first, and then I got knocked sense into me.
I tried to tell you when it first came out, like, it's Beseech. You're like, yeah, but it's 6. And that is a legitimate criticism. If you draw this card and it's not like the first turn, it's a little hard to play.
It's a little awkward. But it's I mean, yeah, it's better the earlier you get it, as most of these Fatestones are. Your game plan's definitely going to be based around what you drew. But if you just if you get a Beseech Fatestone in your opener, you're like, oh, okay, time to make this a tempo control game where I have the upper hand. I have all the cards. I'm gonna react to what you're putting out, and you're not gonna be able to react to what I'm doing well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think some of this sort of Wind Luxem Fatestone shell, I think it has legs. I hope to see it at Seattle. I don't know if it'll do like super well, but
someone will try it.
I'm rooting for it. Our next one is one that I definitely really want to see do well. This is my chips are all in.
Burn.
Diao Cleric Burn, I think, is the most excited I am for a deck this season. I'm probably the most excited I've been for a deck for a card game in a while. it just everything fits. It's like the perfect puzzle. Everything is machine precision fit, and it's just golden. My friends and I have been talking about this for the past few days. One of them's going to Seattle. He's thinking about taking it. And we're just like, this deck is silly. See, I mean, we got 3 here that I think are some of the key sort of shows you what you're really trying to do. Fire Bloom Flourish, class bonus for Cleric. Beginning of your Recollection phase, deal 1 damage to your target champion. So nice incidental damage. Diao bonus. Beginning of your end phase. If your influence is 4 or less, draw a card into memory, gain a Glimmer counter. So you just get to hand dump burn spells and draw back the cards.
Very good. Very
good.
powerful. Drawing if Gloomspire was any incident to dumping your hand is good, Firebloom Flourish says, yeah, but what if actually you didn't have to give your opponent cards too?
Yeah, and you can also play Gloomspire in this deck too. You can have essentially eight Gloomspires.
8 Spire?
8 Spire, yeah. And this is a Fantasia. A theme with this deck is Fantasia. It's not like Fire Xander, where you're very ally focused with Poison Dagger type stuff. Obviously,
No,
Fire Xander does have damage stuff, Plant Explosives and Blazing Throw. But this deck's like full in on spell damage, besides like Rococo. In Rococo, we trust. So we got another Fantasia. Ravenous Pyre, 2 cost. On enter, for class bonus Cleric, draw a card, discard a card. Fuels your graveyard with fire cards, which this deck tends to care about. Whenever a champion you control levels up, or a champion you don't control levels up, deal 2 damage to it. You put some of these out first few turns, your opponent looks at their champion, they're like, oh, crap. Yeah, I'm going to gain health when I level up, but that amount of health I'm gaining is now limited.
It's 1.
Yeah. So it helps close the gap, because obviously the big hurdle for aggro and burn decks is your opponent leveling up. It's a lot easier to kill someone when they have 15 to 19 health than 25 or 28.
Yes.
Looking at you, Merlin. So it helps close the gap. I like this card a lot. It's cool. And I think
They're just like the fix. There's an unthing said that I don't know from how many cards you have displayed for the Cleric Burn deck is
I think I have 9.
the draw and discard that Fire is good at is really good with a new keyword in this set called Kindle.
I've got Kindle on the next slide.
Ah.
Yeah, with the good one.
Yeah, well.
We'll get to Kindle. The most egregious card, I think, for this deck that really gives it like the legs it needs is Cinder Geyser. It's a 4-cost fire, fast, cleric spell, reaction. Important reaction. You can play it from memory with Diao level 1 bonus. Class bonus for cleric. As long as the opponent has at least 4 more cards in their memory, pretty easy in this day and age. It costs 2 less, so really it's a 2 cost. And 2 is kind of the magic number for Diao because she enters with 2 glimmers. You're probably going to have 2 to 3 Fantasias in a given game, so you're going to go back up to 2 or 3 with the level 2 effect. So you can pop Cinder Geysers like every turn. And it deals 4 damage to a unit. Premium damage
Card
number.
is incredibly good.
Kills Frostborn, kills Ghost.
Kills your opponent.
Yeah, kills your opponent.
That's a third, like almost a third of their health on like the first turn.
It's wild to me that this is a common.
Yeah,
This card's wild.
Just because you gotta imagine, you passed your opponent on the first turn, they're gonna want to develop, so they play like 1 or 2 cards, and like, ah, cool, you put 4 cards in memory. 8 you?
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean 8 me?
You can just do it from hand too. You just be like, oh, sick. Okay, 8. No, well, I mean, class bonus, so you gotta wait till the cleric. But it's honestly not an awful thing. Just be like, oh, put like 1 Fantasia out or something.
Yeah, but then you do it in your prereq.
Yeah, this card's silly. I think this is the card, if you're going against Fire Diao, this is one of 2 cards that you really have to look out for. That you will not see coming until it is killing you.
And it will be killing.
It will be killing you. Other things that will kill you. Glowering Conflagration. 3 costs. Conflagration. I know how to speak English. It's a slow cleric spell with class bonus Kindle 3, that mechanic we were talking about. You may banish up to 3 fire element cards from your graveyard as you activate this card. Each one banished this way pays for 1 reserve cost of this card's cost. So Kindle 3 for a 3 cost can really be a 0 cost by banishing 5 fire cards.
Hey, Jacob. If I'm Diao-chan,
yeah,
and I tap Diao-chan, and
Okay.
say, I want to play this glowing conflict. Never mind, it's not a reaction.
It's
Thank
not a
God.
reaction.
Fuck.
Not a reaction. Oh, that'd be
I,
silly.
I, I
That'd
got
be
so
silly.
scared for a second.
But no, that also would
Continue.
work. And what conflagration does is
Close.
burn spell. Deal 1+X damage to target champion, or X to the amount of Phantasias you control. So we're building those Phantasias. This is Fireball for a Fantasia number.
Yep.
I mean,
+1.
this is easily like Fireball's +1.
Yeah. I never noticed because usually it's 20.
That's fair. This is easily like 4 to 5 damage for 0 reserve cost because you're dumping fire cards all the time. You're playing fire cards that say draw a card, discard a card. You're playing fire cards that are going to your graveyard. Yeah, more damage power. It's very easy to put out a lot of damage very quick here. Speaking of putting out damage, Searing Rebuke. 2-cost fire fast. Cleric spell reaction, so you can play this from memory. That's not the broken part of this card. Prevent the next 3 damage that be dealt to your champion this turn. Class bonus for Cleric. Whenever damage is prevented this way, deal 3 damage to a champion that you don't control. So,
Now, Jake.
you take 4. You prevent 3 of it. Whack them for 3.
The funnier part is,
Funnier part.
say that you're playing against Vanitas or Razor Gale Kongming, and they have 2 Razor Gales in play, and they say, okay, I want to play Tempest Downfall you, and then they have 2 triggers to ping, and they target you for both of them. They want to ping you for a total of 5. They want to poke you for 1, 3 you, and you respond by playing Searing Rebuke. Jacob, what happens?
So, you have a shielding thing of damage prevention for 3. You're gonna attempt to take 1 damage from Razor Gale, and Searing Rebuke is gonna say, okay, prevent that. You now prevent the next 2 damage. Hey, you prevented damage this way. Deal 3 to another champion. And that's going to happen again for the second Razor Gale trigger, and again for 1 damage of the 3 from Tempest Downfall. So if you can Searing Rebuke, time it right, before you take multiple instances of 1 damage, this can deal 9 damage.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
For reference, by the way, we didn't mention this at the beginning of like the recording. We're both judges.
Yes, we are both judges.
Important note.
Yeah, so sometimes the things we say are correct. I'm
You
sure
can count on us slightly more.
Yeah, slightly more. I say incorrect things sometimes, and my friends call me out on it. But hey, that's what the comprehensive rules are for. The Bible.
You dare question the Word of Ain?
Yeah. Speaking of dealing instances of 1 damage, Fractal Sparks. 2 costs, reservable Fantasia from A and B.
I always knew it was good.
Yeah, I thought this card was garbage at first. But now my eyes have been opened to the truth. For class bonus for Cleric, you can tap it. Rest it. Deal 1 damage to target champion. Notably, it's
target champion?
Let's say you have 3 copies of Fractal Sparks and you play a Searing Rebuke. You can turn 3 damage from Fractal Sparks into 9 damage with Searing Rebuke.
I love the idea, by the way, of you having, like, you have the Fractal Sparks, you go to play Searing Rebuke, you target yourself with the Fractal Sparks, it's like, I have to use this bird spell on you.
Yeah. I mean, Fractal Sparks, like, in this shell, like, really brings up in value.
Also, sometimes you just go, tap it, poke you, tap it, poke you.
I mean, same with the Flourishing Fantasia that deals 1 at Recollection. Those pings of 1 add up quickly. If you've ever been poked by a dungeon guide in a control mirror, you know that racks up quickly. You have to answer it sometimes.
That and also is just a fractal, so it does just have reservable.
Look,
and sometimes
2 cost reservable fractals, strong.
That gets card out of your hand for your Gloomspire-esque effects. Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is Fire's version of Fractal Rain. Obviously, Fractal Rain's better. But I think you're just as
Fractal
happy.
Rain doesn't kill your opponent.
Yeah. Floating memory.
All right, well, it shouldn't.
Yeah. I think Fractal Sparks you're just as happy to see in this type of shell as you are to see Fractal Rain in a water shell.
Oh, definitely.
2 more interesting things to note. We're going to start with the card on the right here. Sigil of Budding Embers. Notably, this should say Regalia item. It is being eroded. Hindered. Enters rested. Diao bonus. You can rest it. Remove X Glimmer counters from your champion and banish the Sigil. As a spell, deal X damage to target champion. So With level 2, giving you more glimmer counters for your Fantasias. With Flourishing, giving you glimmer counters on end step. And Scepter of Fascination on enter, or Banish Scepter of Fascination. Wake up your champion, give her 2 glimmer counters. You can get a lot of glimmer counters, and not that much effort. It's probably pretty viable to say with Scepter of Fascination, get to 5 or 6.
And please note, with Sigil by Numbers, yes, it's hindered. That activated ability is not slow speed.
It's not slow speed. You can play around things. Hold a gun to your opponent's head.
Threaten it when you know it kills them.
Yeah. So you're just having like 4 to 6 extra damage on command from your material deck. Strong. We have Everflame Staff as well from A and B as another way to just have 4 damage on command sometimes.
Oh yeah.
This Fire Burn deck has a lot of moving pieces that all work well together. You can play like
you can grind very effectively.
Yeah, you can play Heated Vengeance and Impact Hammer like you play in Fiza. You get to play Rococo. You get to play True Team. I believe it was Cabin's video. I think it was Cabin's video that they put out a while back on like a Fire Arasana aggro deck. You get to play some of that tech. I forget what the card is, but it's like it's a 3-cost on death. Banish 2 fire cards from your bin. Deal 3 to an opponent. It's like Seaside Ringleader. They really don't want to kill it because it has a pretty strong effect.
But if they don't kill it, then it just keeps killing them.
Yeah, they're just gonna keep taking 2. So this is my deck that I'm gambling on to do well at Seattle. Obviously not actually gambling. I don't actually gamble. Unless you know what you're doing. This game. Yeah. But if I was a gambling man, I like all in on Cleric Burn and maybe Watermill, but that's a Watermill.
I'm all in on Domains.
That's fair.
But before we do that, Jacob,
bird up.
Bird.
The Pope endorses bird. Fledgling. It's a 0/1 token that looks adorable.
And has some of the saddest flavor text I've ever read.
Errata. This should say token on it. You can't.
Oh yeah, all tokens in the set.
Yeah, but the flavor text for any audio listeners. A young bird, its feathers pristine and untouched, brimming with excitement to soar, blissfully unaware of the perils and struggles awaiting it in the boundless skies it so eagerly seeks.
Like, why is my flavor text being like read by David Attenborough?
Wow.
Like, why is he talking about like, and the young seal will go out into the water, but it will never see its mother again? It's like, what? Why?
Thankfully, in our semi-capable hands, we're gonna take these birds to victory. We got a couple cards to make birds. Feathery Tune makes 2 birds, fast speed. Plumbing Crescendo. Harmony's back. If you've activated Melody this turn, you make 2 fledglings, and then you give all your animals +1.
They're in.
So yeah, you got some ways to make birds. I think there's 3 ways to make birds. I think it's these 2 and the Luxem one we'll get to. And then what are we going to do with those birds? Oh, actually, sorry. Luxem card that makes birds. Felicious Flock. Intercept 0 cost 1/2. Whatever. Bird Machine.
Bird Machine.
I'm going to call this card Bird Machine. Whenever you reveal this from your memory, summon a fledgling token with a buff counter on it that has Intercept. That's not bad, but how are we going to reveal it? Lumen Borealis. 3-cost Luxem Fantasia. On enter, you can reveal a card from memory. So if you use Flock to pay for it, you get a fledgling token right then and there. Class bonus for Tamer. All your animal allies get +1/+1. So now your fledglings that you're making off of Flocks are 2/3s. 2/3s kill people.
They sure do.
And importantly, whenever an animal ally you control dies, you can reveal a card from your memory. So if one of your animals dies during your opponent's turn, you can create a token with Flock that will gain Intercept until the end of turn. And as far as I'm aware, besides Tristan shenanigans for unblockable, you basically can't be hit. Because they have to keep hitting the bird.
Well, yes, for that turn. Because it gains Intercept until end of turn.
Per turn. Any attack damage. Because they have to attack. When they attack, you're going to intercept it with the token. And if they kill the token this way, Lumen Borealis is going to proc, reveal Flock from your memory, make a new intercepting bird for that turn.
Yeah.
As long as you can do that. And I think, yeah. One of my favorite cards that they randomly dropped on us at the end here. Primeval Ritual. 3-cost fast wind card. Has additional cost to activate this card. Sack an ally. immediately up front. We have a way to sacrifice an animal on the opponent's turn to proc Lumen Borealis and start our intercepting chain.
And fun fact, if you have one of these in your hand and one of these in the graveyard,
they chain because
they do chain.
What Primeval Ritual does, return target wind element card from your graveyard to your memory. So you can just keep sending Primeval Rituals back and forth. Yeah, I mean, it's good. And the funny part is, right, if you have one Lumen Borealis, you'll get one trigger and remake the bird. If you have two Lumen Borealis, you'll make 2 birds. If you have 3, you'll make 3. And if you have 4, you'll make 4.
Also, your birds will also be like huge because they're all
be like massive.
Complex.
Yeah, by 4 you'll have 5 6s?
5 6s, yes.
Yeah, that's that kills 4 5 6s. Definitely wins the game.
They look at your bird that is intercept. They're like, well, I don't want to kill it. It's like, why? It's like, because I die if I kill it.
Yeah. Now I don't know how real this strategy is, but I think it's really funny. There's a lot of Fantasia hate running around. And like with Cleric Burn, there's a lot of spell damage that goes, I don't care about infinite intercepting birds. I'm going to shoot you in the face. However, it's really funny.
It's very funny.
And we do have some ways to support the birds outside of Lumen Borealis stuff. We got 2 new ways to buff the birds, and we get a nice little old thing from DOA, Backway Win. We'll start with that one. Attune with the Winds, 3 cost, wind slow. It's a harmony. Put a buff counter on each ally you control, and if you've activated a melody this turn, draw a card to replace itself.
Oath of Sakura.
Oath of Sakura. We know putting buff counters and everything's good. It's solid. And I mean, yeah, it's solid. I don't know what else to say about it. Wild Heart Him is kind of similar, but you have to time it. Attune with the Winds, you do after you make the birds. Wild Heart Him, you're going to do before you make the birds. 2 cost slow. It's a melody. Until in a turn, whenever an animal enters the field under your control, put a buff counter on it. So you can play this, then you make the birds. And then you can play Attune with the Winds after to buff them and draw a card because you have you played a melody.
It's a good setup. Yeah. Because you do this into the one that makes the 2 fledglings, and then they get +1/+1. So now they're +1/+0, and so you just make 2 2/2s minimum.
Yeah, and then we have pure bird support in Wing Peak Patriarch, a 2 cost norm 1/1. Other birds you control get +1 attack. So they've given Win Luxem. We got the Fatestone stuff, but we also have bird stuff. Not notably, with the return of Harmonies and Melodies, Clockwork Music Box crawls back from the bulk box.
Remember when this card saw play?
It didn't, so I wouldn't blame you. To my knowledge, at least. Clockwork Music Box is interesting. It lets you replay Harmonies and Melodies that you've previously played by banishing them. Obviously, gets hit by Fracturize and Reduced to Ash, and Zephyr makes it lose sight of anything it already banished. But hey,
make them have it. Make them have it.
They might have it, but hey, you gotta make them have it, right?
They might not.
They might not.
That's the funnier one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Noah, what do you think about birds? Competitively.
Competitively? Oh, wait.
Competitively, yeah. Like, if I'm going to Seattle, should I take birds to Seattle?
I think we need concrete testing before we determine that. And by that, I mean, play to your locals and see how you feel.
That's a no.
You just gotta vibe check it.
Now, if I'm going to locals, should I take birds to locals?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Hell yeah.
What are you talking about? Absolutely.
Yeah. I think a good way to put it is, you go.
The way that I imagine you're winning with this deck, as I've played a token S strategy before with Deployment, Beacon, Tony, is the way that you're killing your opponent is that not a lot of Grand Archive decks are built for en masse board wipes. They used to be. Lorraine and Merlin used to be very good at leveling to 2, cleave, attack everything, haha, I wiped your board and draw some cards. And Arasana is okay, well I can pop Polaris to blow up a bunch of stuff. But most other decks, you play 3 2/2s, and they're oh,
damn.
Huh. Yeah, and they don't exactly know what to do,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the angle you're attacking the game. Especially if with stuff like Clockwork Music Box, you can do that again and again and again. Like if you can repeatedly pump out just dudes, a lot of decks don't know what to do.
Yeah, and let's go back a few slides here. Both Feathery Tune and Plumbing Crescendo are harmonies and melodies. So with Clockwork Music Box, you can essentially double the amount of things you have that make birds.
No, and there are some other like harmonies and melodies. Like there's one that is like a setup one. It's 2 cost, draw a card into your memory. Your next
Yeah.
harmony is 1 cheaper. And it's like you just run that to be like, all right, I turned on my stuff as well as I helped put stuff down for floating and all, or like stuff I want to banish. I think it's real.
It's gonna take some skill, I think, in the right hands, because balancing when you're playing things, if you're harmonizing or not, it's a lot of mental math, right? A lot of mental,
the Gildas problem.
lining up your plays. But now you're doing it constantly rather than just, oh, I drew Gildas.
Yeah. There's also something to be said of like, yes, the Lumen Borealis is really cool, but when I talked about, do you just go Alan?
You might just go Alan, because Alan's got that harmony melody stuff. Maybe you can make the levels matter for something.
And the ultimate thing is, if you are doing Guogia, you get a boss monster.
Yeah, you can. I don't know which one you'd use.
I think it's just Shenju, probably.
They're all Shenju.
That's what. Yeah, I knew that. Sari.
Sari, the dragon. Yeah. No, I
said, Shenju.
I do think you would just use the arcane one as just a end of turn. I don't like the cards in my memory. Let's get rid of one of them and draw a new one. I mean, some of these cards that care about the bird stuff is fast. The Feathery Tune is fast. So if you've got 3 cards in hand, you're like, oh, let's get rid of one's memory. So I have 4 in hand and I can play Feathery Tune at the end step.
Yeah. It's a very cool.
It's interesting
archetype. How real it is will be yet to determine.
Yeah, of the 3 archetypes we went over, I'd say birds is good for locals. Wind Fatestones is probably good for like a regional or a store champ, and Cleric Burn's probably good for like Ascent type stuff.
Yeah.
Based off what I have seen so far, but we do have. I think I did 2 or 3 slides of.
You did some sleeper picks.
Sleeper picks. Now, okay. Before, I know a couple of people who'd be like, Zhang Jiao, Extricating Touch. Why are you calling this a sleeper pick? I'm calling this a sleeper pick in the sense of there is not a deck in the meta where this just immediately slots in, right? You can play Extricating Touch in Watermill, but I think these are cards that could create new archetypes that we haven't fully seen designed before. Zheng Jia especially, I think, creates a lot of options and opportunity. It's a 3-cost 1/2 unique ally. On enter, depending on the amount of cards in your memory, you do an effect. The best one is 0 cards in memory. You draw 2 cards. You +1 because you use Zheng Jia for it, and then you draw 2 new ones. 1 to 3, you recover 4. 4 to 6, you glimpse 4. 7 or more, your opponents discard a card from the memory random. But the really important one here is 0, draw 2 cards. And there's a lot of ways you can do this.
How are you going to do that?
Fractals can be used to pay for it. Ventus on a fresh board can do it. Suppression can do it if you, I guess, aren't doing anything during your turn. You can Zephyr in the prereq. End of turn, comes back, draws 2 cards.
Yep.
It opens up a lot of options that I don't think you can just slot into any current deck and say, I am using this to its best potential.
My favorite thing you can do with it is in Tony Domains.
Yeah, you
all
can.
your domains have reservable. That's tap 3 domains draw 2.
Kingdom. That's true. That's true. Okay, I lied. There is one deck that this just goes in, and you don't have to change what's domains. But I think domains is good to call a sleeper pick.
Terrible cards in it.
Yeah, I think that's good enough to call a sleeper pick for domains.
Yeah, well, hey.
Extricating Touch is a 3-cost water slow cleric mage spell action. Class bonus, costs 1 less. Target player reveals your choice of their hand or their memory. You choose a card from among the revealed and discard it. If you played Magic
I have a
Gathering,
question for you.
Thoughtseize.
It is Thoughtseize, but more on that in a second. When you play Extricating Touch, Jacob, do you declare which you are picking when you cast it or when it resolves?
I think it should be resolve. I think the only thing you have to tell ahead of time is that it's the target player, right? I don't actually know. This wasn't in the notes.
Because it's not picking a mode.
Yeah.
It's strange. So yes, like Jacob was saying, if you played Magic, you know that hand attack effects are not uncommon. But in Great Archive, they're relatively slight. There's Gwaine.
And Gawain has to hit.
Yeah, and Gwaine needs to hit.
Yeah.
This one is just you play the card. If they don't have a ability to let you to negate it, or can they give themselves Spell Shroud, it happens, and you kind of put them in a position of, if it does happen after it resolves and then you get to pick, is they have to decide, okay, do I want to play a card at fast speed just so they have to choose hand or memory?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if their entire hand is in their memory, you just get full information, which is a detriment that we were saying to the new spirits. Imagine you go first, you sculpt your perfect hand, you put it face down, your opponent goes and then goes extricating touch, target your memory, and you just flip your entire memory. You're like, yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, this card
really funny tech with this. Really funny tech with this, by the way, is you target yourself when you're on Xander.
This is true. This is another.
Don't do that, by the way.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't -2 yourself.
Do not -2 yourself.
Just use Revitalizing Cleanse. But like, I don't think there's many decks in the meta that you can immediately slot this into that are like top tier decks. I think this helps close the gap for some of these water control decks that are like level 3 decks, like Water Terra Kong Ming, Water Terra Diao. Maybe Water Merlin looks at this. I don't know how big Water Merlin is now that like its main enemy that it was targeted to kill is gone. And I don't want to say gone. It's less powerful in Water Merlin. Also, not having access to the full power of Scepter Lumina definitely hurts Water Merlin a little, but that's a whole other entire discussion. But I think Extricating Touch helps close that gap.
This is not a Cleric Mage spell. Yeah, is it nice to have the cost reduction? I would pay 3 for this card.
Yeah, you could just pay 3. Watermill could just use this. I could eat my words here, and Watermill just plays this and uses it to make the gap even wider between some matchups. But yeah, I think you need to look out for this card. In your testing, your gameplay. I think it's strong. Delusional Vapors is our next one.
Jacob, why is this on the list?
Mill. Now, when you hear the word mill in Grand Archive, Noah, what are you thinking?
I would be inclined to think that you were talking about self-mill.
Yeah. Mill, to this point, has been pretty much self-mill, besides the occasional penguin fractal mill out of your opponent. But we got a new mill on the block. We got old-fashioned mill from Magic the Gathering, where you're milling your opponent on purpose. Delusional Vapors is a 3-cost water-fast assassin action skill with a class bonus for Prepare 2. Target opponent mills 8 cards from their deck. And if it was prepared, whenever they draw a card for the remainder of the turn, they mill 4 more cards. So if you do this during the recollection step, they're milling at least 12 cards. 8 from the thing, 1 for drawing for turn.
It's a shame that they fixed Scepter of Lumina, because the funniest thing you could do previously with Delusional Vapors is they would have Scepter of Lumina, in their prereq they would go to pop it, and in response you would Delusional Vapors, so that would mill them 8 outright, then mill another 8 because they drew 2 cards, and then when they drew for turn, mill another 4 cards. So they would mill 20 cards and have drawn 3, so they're already down like a third of their deck.
Almost half.
Which was almost half, realistically.
Yeah.
Considering your opening hand.
But yeah.
No, this was really good. As well as just like, I don't know, it's something so funny about the mill spell being fast.
Yeah.
Forcing your opponent to stay on their toes.
Water Assassin Mill is definitely interesting. I'm wary that there's not enough things that mill. I think there's 3 cards that mill. There's this, something that says on champion hit, mill them for 4, and Sudden Deluge that mills them for 10 on hit and it's an attack spell. There's some other incidental mill things. But those are your big hits. Grand Archive players love drawing cards though, so maybe that'll just do enough legwork for you that those 12 cards, if you run 4 of each, go the distance.
It's one of those things of like, yeah, maybe there's not a lot, but is it like, are they good enough pieces? Like, if Delusional Vapors, even if it only mills 12, and that's a funny thing to say, only mills 12. That's still 4 of those and they're basically dead.
Yeah, no, that's true.
for
And
those effects, and you have Sudden Deluge, which is build 10.
yeah, I think what you play Xander up to level 2 with the proxy
Yeah.
of Xander because it grabs
Oh,
an
you can
assassin
rebuy Delusional?
action or attack, so you can either grab a sudden deluge or grab a delusional. And I think it has legs. I would expect to see Water Assassin mill Xander. They'll probably figure out some fancy name for it. I'd expect to see it at Seattle. I don't know if it'll do well. But at least in your first few rounds, you could probably expect it. Especially in your locals if you have any funny assassin local players. Next, we got some advanced element picks for things that are not really targeted at new cards of this set. These are all targeted at old archetypes.
Funny to think of Kongming as old.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm calling Kongming old even though she's last set, but it feels like ages ago, especially since Kongming has, if you've been paying attention to the metagame, outside of Razor Gale and the new Fractal Burst Asunder list, Kongming's been not really seen because she's not really that great. Hopefully, this card changes it, but so I guess let's start with Bagawa then, since we're talking about it. 2-cost Terra Fast, Bagawa of Vital Demise, action mage spell. As long as your Shifting Currents faces west, you can play it from your material deck, and then deal 4 damage to target unit. If your Shifting Currents faces east, put it back into your material deck preserved. And if you respond to the Kongming 3 triggers properly, you can play it while you're west, trigger goes on the stack to change your direction, play another spell, trigger goes on the stack to change your direction. You can end up at the direction of east to put it back in your material deck.
Yeah, it's very good. One of the big problems with Kongming previously was like, yeah, you were really good at surviving. How the hell did you kill your opponent?
Yeah, I was a big Terra Kongming player at the start of the season, and it was rough. Sempiternal Sage and Leeching Bolt did a lot of work. I tested with Crawl a little bit, and it was a little funny, but it was okay. A little too much investment. But yeah, it's so hard to get the damage there. Because the big thing was, yeah, you're preserving Leeching Bolt every turn, but that means you're using your materialization every turn to grab Leeching Bolt. When you could be grabbing something like Terrasite to draw more cards to find more ways to kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I hope this solves the problem. I think it's really interesting that you can play it, and then by the time it resolves, put it back in the material deck. So, especially if you have 2 of these to proc off each other, that's like 8 damage a turn. That'll kill someone pretty quickly. And all you have to really focus on doing is staying alive.
And that's the thing, is even if it's not targeting them, that says any target. Or it says target unit. You can start picking off stuff.
We talked about the 4 damage premium.
Yeah, 4 damage is a very good number to have.
Yeah, no, I like this a lot. And you're not going down cards to play this because you do it at their end step or you do it during your recollection.
Yeah, probably.
And you're staying card neutral. Heavens forbid you have something that draws cards off playing spells somehow. If you're really there, you can do Hydro Guard shenanigans. Maybe, I don't know. If you have 4 of these, God forbid.
So it's, if it's facing east, put it into your deck preserved. Then if you go west, oh, you know what's even more gross? I just realized.
What?
Is that? Okay, no, never mind. I was thinking at first because it's you play it when you're west and then you move your way over to east.
Yeah.
I thought it was the inverted because it's even more disgusting if it's inverted because then you get the taunt guy.
Yeah, then you could really use Hydro Guard.
Yeah, and Hydro Guard's just obscene.
Yeah. But this is really good because you're not going down cards like you were with Leeching Bolt. I don't even think you play Leeching Bolt anymore. Maybe 1 or 2, just to go the distance.
I think it's a 1-of just because it recovers a little.
I think this is an easy 4 of. Like, this is how you're winning the game now. All you need to do is survive and find this card.
The fact that card is fast is so much heavy lifting.
Yeah, it solves her big problem of, like, yeah, sometimes you'd win the game, but it would take, like, the entirety of the timer. Like, sometimes it would take 40, 50 minutes to win round 1. Where this, you can put a clock on your opponent that will, like, actually kill them, and you can maybe play game 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Because if you played against a smart ally player and they realized they've stabilized, I'm not winning this, they're going to scoop. They're going to go to game 2 and they're going to kill you in game 2 and 3.
Oh,
Um, yeah.
We haven't talked about striking illuminance
Let's talk about
yet.
striking illuminance. If you want to
All
read
right.
that one off.
Jacob may have talked himself up as big Xander player. I was before him. I know that twink. He's very good, and part of your kill was sometimes doing the slice and dice combo like Tristan can. You would have Assassin's Ripper, you make it, you pop a prep counter, so now it's a 3 damage weapon, and then you slice and dice, dealing 15 damage. Really good. One downside is it's not the fastest, especially for Xander, who is known for drawing out a game for a bit. Striking Illuminance is a way of changing that. It's not exactly different. The main thing is it only requires one attack. So if you're running this as your kill con, I don't think you run Assassin's Ripper, period, because you're not double dipping on it like Tristan
no, you don't need to.
But this isn't trying to, because this is a very interesting effect of you can prepare it for 2, but even if you don't, whenever you reveal a Luxem card from your memory, it gets +1 attack because it's in your intent. And this ability only triggers if it's in your intent. So you play Striking Illuminance, you declare your attack at the enemy champion, and say you did prep this card. On attack, if you prepped it, you reveal all the cards in your memory. There you go.
Yeah, I think the only gap we have to fill in is on attack, if it was prepared, reveal all the cards in your memory.
Yes, which is a really good effect because, Jacob, what's Luxem known for again?
Putting Luxem cards in memory.
And then revealing them.
Yeah.
So you play this, you reveal a bunch of your Luxem cards. You reveal like 2 Luxem Sights, maybe only 1 Lightweaver's Assault. And sure, that another Striking Illuminance. That heals you for 6, deals 2 damage to whatever target you want. And also now your Striking Illuminance is an 8 damage attack.
Yeah.
And that's assuming you can only reveal it once.
Yeah.
So you say then, you're like, okay, cool. Still before damage has happened, I want to play my other Lightweaver's Assault that I have in my hand. I'll put 4 more cards down. Cool, I'll flip my memory again. I'll reveal 4 more Luxem cards, 8 you with the Lightweaver's Assaults. Now my Striking Illuminance is for 12 damage.
Yeah, or you play the Lightweaver's Assault with the attack trigger on in case you have more Luxem cards in hand.
Even better. It's just such a... this card is just such a good way of being like, hey, surprise, you're dead.
Yeah.
It didn't matter that I had to deal 20 to you. I can do that now. And even better, and it's my favorite part of Xander, is that his static effect says, I'm going to make it so you can't interact on my turn. The one biggest downside to this card is the fact that you are now even softer to Nullifying Mirror. But Xander's not bad at dealing with that kind of stuff. Yeah, you just
Excalibur the Nullifying Mirror. It's whatever.
Remind me, is Gojia's Fatestone, is that a Gojia bonus? It should be.
Yeah.
It's a shame, because otherwise Xander would be like, yeah, deal, take it. I want it.
Heavenly Fatestone's a Gojia bonus to pay to reveal.
Rats.
I think this card's great. Like, it lets you kill at 8 influence rather than the 10 influence of double Lightweaver's Assault. I mean, yeah, this card's great. It needs to prepare too, but like, what's the card?
That's not hard. Slice and Dice would prepare 3.
No, I'm not. The card that gives you prep. Uncover the Plot. It gives you 2 prep.
Uncover the Plot gives you 2 prep,
it's
and
perfect.
triggers your stuff. And draws a card, replace itself. Insignia of Korhaji.
Yeah.
Generally, by the time you're going to level 2, if you've activated Insignia once, you have a spare prep.
Yeah, I mean,
because you get 1 for level 1. You get 2, but realistically net 1 to go to level 2. Yeah. You've generally spent 1 on like a thieving cut or something.
Yeah.
It's the prep is not hard.
The prep is not hard. Yeah, I mean, it's a great card and an already great shell that I think is going to be decent in the upcoming meta. Let's talk about a good card for a bad shell. Harness Lightning. So a 1-cost arcane slow action. As long as you control an arcane element, Shenju ally, ignore the elemental restrictions. So if you're playing the dragon with Gojia, you can also play this. But we're going to talk about this in the lens of Rai. It's an arcane card. You choose 1. You either empower 4, or target ally gets +4. And on both effects, it banishes itself upon resolution. That's important because Rai cares about banishing stuff.
So for Rai, there's 1 line of text on this card, right?
Yeah. For Rai, it's 1 line of text. It's empower 4. Which is effectively Empower 5.
Empower 5.
Yeah, because it banishes itself. 1 cost Empower 5 for Rai goes a long distance.
Yeah, for 1,
Yeah, you can.
this says,
God,
in
it's
the same
silly.
turn of leveling up, Harness Lightning, sick, Advent for free.
Yeah, it's it's insane with Advent. Or like Erratic Bolt or Fireball. I mean, it's just it lets you close that gap so much quicker, which was kind of Rye's problem. Like, yeah, usually it's a 50-50. Rye either kills you or they don't. But now they have a lot, especially with some other arcane cards in the set, they have a lot better options to make sure that they are killing you.
Yeah.
And combined with Art of War, they can stop you from attacking them easily.
Yeah, we didn't show those ones because we didn't deem them sleeper picks because they're just good enough.
They're just good. But I haven't seen many people talking about this card that I've seen. I don't know. I don't really frequent the Rye chat and the main Discord server, so maybe I'm just speaking out of line here for the Rye players. But I haven't seen in my circle much talk about this compared to some of the other arcane cards. So I like it. I think it's good. I think it's got a place. We'll see. I think. Oh, no, there's one more.
All right, I want one of these, and you know that.
Oh, yeah. So we talked about domains earlier being, they're okay.
You can't
Domains are
see, but
okay.
I'm raising my eyebrows multiple times.
Domains have a reputation. However, one domain in specific from good old FTC probably has some legs this season. I mean, it already had some legs, but now especially that like we're in a meta where Razor Gale is probably going to come back as a decent pick. I mean, it never really went away, but it's like it was overshadowed by Watermill.
It got quieter.
It's out of the shadow now. But you got Watermill, which is a full water deck, and Razor Gale, which is like a full wind deck. Cleric Burn's going to be pretty much a full fire deck. And now, how does Dawn of Ashes hurt these?
Dawn of Ashes, we're going to ignore the upkeep cost for right now. But the text on the card as a unique domain is non-norm element cards cost 1 more to activate. It doesn't matter if it's an advanced element or a primary element.
Yeah, Norm
They cost
Tribal.
1 more.
Insane against these decks that are playing full 60 card water, wind, fire.
A one-sided tax effect goes so far.
Yeah.
Especially because if you're full norm, the upkeep cost, which you do have to pay of Dawn of Ashes, is upkeep at the beginning of your recollection phase, reveal a card at random from your memory. If that card isn't norm, you gotta sack Dawn of Ashes. But here's the thing. 2 parts. 1, if there are no cards in your memory, you didn't reveal a non-norm card, it sticks around.
Yeah.
Or if your deck is entirely norm cards,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry. And the third thing that I didn't even tell you I was going to add is if you're playing Domain Tony and you're not full norm, the new weapon they printed, which we don't have on here, Reciprocity, I think that's the name.
Yeah, Reciprocity.
Can negate upkeep effects.
Yeah. Obviously for domains, this is the big news. Domain enjoyers have been waiting for some big news, especially with Reciprocity. But I think the better lens to look at this in is Norm Aggro. One of my friends at my locals has been tinkering with a Norm Aggro Tony deck in light of this card on the left here, which we'll get to in a second. It's just like really strong. You get to do the same thing that Allies decks do with Gildus and with you can use Academy Guide to force them to have an answer. Use Inspiring Call to buff all your guys, and you're going band for band, but your bands are a little stronger. And especially in combination with Dawn of Ashes. Yeah. Landing a turn 1 Dawn of Ashes against Mill is pretty much a death sentence for them.
Landing a turn 1 Dawn of Ashes against like anyone, they look at their hand and go, "Oh, this is so much better than when I sculpted it."
Yeah.
Like, oh no.
Imagine you're playing the New Spirit. You sculpted the perfect hand of 7 cards, and they just played turn 1 Dawn of Ashes, and you're like, oh man, everything's ruined.
They played turn 1 Dawn of Ashes into like there's also a new domain, Zhangjiao? No. Whatever, the keep, the Frozen Citadel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't remember what it's called. It's the water one. It's the water siegeable domain. Siegeable being the new mechanic that they can be attacked. It's like battles from Magic. It says, the beginning of your opponent's recollection phase, if they don't banish a card with floating memory from their graveyard, the first card they activate this turn costs 2 more.
So if you stick both of these realistically, which is not hard in a domain deck, is they look at them like, okay, I couldn't banish a floating memory card because they played the censor and removed all abilities.
Yeah.
my first card cost 3 more.
Yeah, that cripples most decks long enough for you to do your thing.
Yeah, and they're like, well, if I can attack it, and you're like, Art of War. And they're like, I've lost. It's game's over, man.
Yeah, but I think the biggest piece, this like crux of an ally for this Norm aggro deck is, I'm gonna butcher this name. Apologies in advance. Shangjiang, Fierce Princess. It's a 3-cost 2/3 Norm unique ally with Imbue 3, our first Norm Imbue card. So you're gonna want to reveal Norm cards with this.
Nullify Mirror that.
Yeah. Which, if your entire deck's Norm, the Imbue doesn't matter because you have to be playing Norm cards for it anyways. If she's imbued and she would take damage from a non-Norm source, which is what you're designing this deck to beat, prevent 2 of that damage. So you either need to deal 5 to her at once, or deal some increments of damage with 3 or 4, which is insanely taxing.
Yeah, or 4 to her twice.
Yeah.
Can I say, by the way, I think it's really funny that this deck is such a bizarre concept because it's a meta killer. You're trying to snipe the meta.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what's really funny if this deck becomes meta? I want you in your head. Let me paint you a mind picture. You sit down, you play turn 1 of Dawn of Ashes. Your opponent looks at you, kind of slow blinks, and then plays their own Dawn of Ashes. Congratulations. This game is going to get incredibly weird because now all of your dudes are just terrible little idiots that are all free.
Yeah, hey, Gildus is not that terrible little dude.
Sure. But you both are sitting there with a Shangjiang.
Yeah, that does nothing.
And you're like, wait, it's a 2/3. I can imbue it if I want, but it doesn't matter.
2/3s go the distance.
Sure.
Yeah, it will be really funny if you are playing this anti-meta deck and you run into the same thing in a mirror match. That'll be an interesting mirror match. Your sideboarding will be really cool.
I just realized, is she wearing a boot and a fishnet on 2 separate legs?
I believe so. She,
all right.
Very combat ready. Grand Archive, known for its very accurate artwork to
Very
battle.
Accurate. It's one of the, I will admit, I like Grand Archive gameplay wise. I think it's very cool. It is so hard for me to show people this game.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, it's really cool. They're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, all right, there's 3 cards I don't want to show you. Like, look, I play like this. It's part of the, admittedly, it's part of the reason I play dudes. Is like, I look at them like, yeah, no, I get to be the anime protagonist. This is cool. And then I look at some of I look at Nico and I'm like,
oh, brother.
I'm like, I'm like, brother, that's way too pronounced.
The regional I got top 8 with was Sylvie. I got 7th, and I got the backup charger, and I was staying with my parents for that weekend, because the store I was at was near there. And I come back and I'm like, hey, look at this like $500 market price card I won. And my mom looks at it and she's like, oh, she's very pronounced. I didn't even think about that. I was like,
word, right?
Cool. I was like, oh, cool card. Oh, it's the backup charger. Oh, it does just have a very promiscuous
that's the
crimson. I think it's crimson tier.
I think so. What's the problem I have when I play these things is I stop recognizing, like, I kind of dissociate cards after long enough.
Yeah.
If I look at a thing and I'm like, well, I just know what that does by the name. Sure, I don't need to see it. And then someone plays a Heavenly Guide against me, and I go, oh yeah.
I judged a regional this season too, so I've got that Heavenly Guide mat.
You have the mat?
I played it for 1 week. I couldn't do more than that. I was like, it's right. It's right there.
It's right there.
They're both right there. You can't even cover them with a card. It takes like 3 cards to cover.
No, it takes several. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to put my memory up front. And they're like, why? You're like, no reason.
I love Heavenly Guide. The card's sick, but man.
Oh, very good. I own 2. I got off trading.
I can't show it to anyone. I can't show that mat to anyone.
No. It's one of those things where, like, when I was talking to one of my friends who's really into Magic and very good competitively, but when I told him, I was like, why are you playing that? And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know. It's really fun. Resource system is good. And then he looked at one of the things and went, uh-huh. There's nothing I can say to convince you otherwise, is there? He went, not really. And I was like, yeah. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah. No, it's I love this game. This game's great.
It's so cool. It's such a good system. It's so nice to have a company that cares.
Yeah. Hey, thanks to Weebs of the Shore. You guys are great.
Yeah.
Treat us a lot better than company that shall not be named that runs Magic the Gathering does. Not
It's like
WotC,
coming
it's
from an abusive
Hasbro.
household and then
Yeah.
seeing like how your friends live, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you guys
Hasbro
want
is
to eat at the table?
Hasbro handles their game. I'll say that.
Sure do.
Some of the decisions they make are good, and I just don't like them. But some of the decisions they make
Yeah.
are just bad.
Yeah. Like
Uh,
some of the stuff they do with like some of you can feel how you want about the universes beyond.
why are we
You
not
could
getting
feel
Spider-Man
ways.
decks or Commander decks? That's a whole different topic. But I just like it's a money pot that you're throwing in the garbage. No Commander decks for Spider-Man. It's like if you were like,
That's a weird
yeah,
one.
we didn't do Recollection decks for this extra set. We just did the 2 more starter decks that are okay at best. No.
Hey, you lay off, Jin.
Oh god, Jin. We'll talk about Jin at some point.
I have opinions on Jin.
Oh, I've got thoughts on Jin, and they aren't good.
I think Jimmy Lee is a genius.
Jimmy Lee, the genius Jin player. I look up to him.
Want actually quick shout out to him. I doubt he'll ever hear this. I want you to know. I ran back your list because I wanted to learn Jin, and I thought, yeah, your list looked really awesome. I played it enough that I got pretty good with it. I kind of figured it out, and I played it at a locals, and I played against someone on like Paul Cock or whatever. I demolished them because they cannot kill you fast enough.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, from across the table, there's like a match in between us. He goes, "Hey, by the way, can I like get your list?" And I'm in the process of going, "Oh yeah, sure," like ready to pull your list. And the guy in the middle goes, "Hey," because he's also on Jin. He's like, "You didn't ask me," and he goes, "Man, that guy demolished me with his." And I'm like, "Hell yeah, sick! This list is awesome." Thanks, Jimmy.
Jimmy Lee might see this. The Grand Archive. That's one of the things I like about the Grand Archive community is it's pretty small in terms of like
Yeah, that was
content.
part of the reason we wanted to do this was that when we were first like, oh, what, like who is getting to see like spoilers, and we saw and we were like, oh, they only have like 50 people, and our first thought was, oh, we could do this.
Yeah, like, I think I know like 50 people. I don't know.
And I think I know 50 people.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Girl Scout mentality.
Yeah. We'll go to this while we're talking about this, but yeah, I mean, we've both watched. I think I've probably watched a little bit more of the Grand Archive content sphere.
Oh god, yeah.
That's where I got a lot of the inspiration for how we were gonna run this operation. Obviously, a big shout out to Main Deck Dan and Main Deck Taylor. I think Main Deck Dan tweeted at some point that Dusklight Communion would be a really good name for Grand Archive podcast, and we both saw that and we are like, yeah, it would. And then we waited like 2 months.
You took the IP like a week later.
No. We waited like 2 months to do anything with it.
Oh, okay.
But no one had done it yet, so I was like, okay, I guess I'll make the YouTube channel. Say thanks for the idea from your random tweet. I appreciate it. Love your content. Yeah, it's always good to watch the Main Deck podcast. True Team does good content with their deck techs, as does Chess Club. We're gonna try and do some gameplay stuff at some point.
Yeah.
Both our webcam setups are a little scuffed.
I have to finagle an overhead, but like I could do it.
Yeah, but I definitely want to test some HVN stuff when I get all my hands on it. Especially Fire Cleric. If you see me doing well at events, assume I'm on Fire Cleric, or else I'm a fake fan.
And if you see me not at events, I don't make it to a bunch of them.
Yeah, I went to Santa Clara, and Santa Clara was great. I'm sad I wasn't able to set up going to Seattle because I'm supposed to go on a work trip, but now that work trip might not even happen, so who knows? But either way, I'm not going to Seattle.
Let's not worry about why. It's fine. Both of us are doing great.
Government.
No, shut up.
Spoilers for my life. Yeah, I won't be at Seattle. I will be at Nationals. I will be at Worlds probably, and I will be at the East Coast Ascent. Because spoiler alert, I'm East Coast. We're both East Coast based. Virginia.
Hell yeah!
Shout out to the Virginia stores. You know who you are, and the judges. You know who you are.
Modern Tabletop represent.
Yeah, love Modern Tabletop.
Great store.
Great store.
Great store. Yeah, that's what we've got. We will be recording more stuff bi-weekly. Whether that means this week or
bi-weekly.
2 weeks, unclear.
It'll probably get a little confuddled because of my work trip because I won't have anything on me.
Yeah.
I'll have a phone and like an old laptop and that's about it.
Bring the mic.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we'll pre-record something and it'll just be a little out of date whenever it comes out.
If you have any questions for us, feel free to ask.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Drop
you could
it.
possibly want to know about us, but
Like and subscribe. Oh my god. Actually, yeah, if you do enjoy, please subscribe. Share it with your friends. Maybe not your family. I don't know. We just talked about it.
wait, don't,
Grand
yeah,
archive art. Maybe don't share it with your family. But hey, share
don't.
it.
I don't think we shared anything explicit. Diao Chan's a little. Diao
Yeah.
Chan.
Yeah.
It's really just the first art. Her level 2, the level 3 art, so pretty, so nice. And the level 1 is pretty, but also, oh.
Yeah, I really want that level 2 CSR. It's definitely not for the feet.
Do you think that one's gonna be more expensive?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Okay.
I've seen Talkin' Merlin's market about it already, for sure.
Oh.
Um,
No.
Rise of the Feet, Limbo.
No.
If you were to set Santa Clara, you know what I'm talking about.
What?
Ooh.
Oh.
But yeah, we're gonna try and make more content. Hopefully, it's good. We'll see how this video comes out because I haven't made a video of anything in a while. I tried to make Binding of Isaac videos a few years back, and I just got lazy and never did it.
And I left all of this on Jacob's shoulders because I knew I didn't know how to do it.
We're gonna learn DaVinci and OBS on the fly, baby.
And I'll be here.
Yeah, I'll try and get this out this weekend. If not, and this comes out later, then the weekend of March
This comes
8th.
out in April. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. But yeah, thank you for watching. This commences, or not commence, no, commences start. Shit, I'm already messing it up. This concludes the Dusklight Communion. Thank you.
Keep her brewing.
Yeah.